The story begins in ancient Rome, where we meet Lucius, an architect with financial difficulties. Every one of his ideas is met with rejection by clients who perceive them as outdated innovations. One day, a friend invites Lucius to join them at a public bathhouse for relaxation. Uncomfortable with the loud and unclothed patrons, Lucius submerged himself in the water for some privacy. To his surprise, he notices a hole in the wall forming a whirlpool. Intrigued, he approaches it only to be suddenly pulled by a powerful current. Lucius finds himself in a tunnel-like, suffocating environment, desperately struggling for oxygen. Until he manages to resurface, but he soon realizes that he is no longer in the familiar surroundings of the Roman bathhouse. Somehow, the architect had traversed through time, arriving in modern-day Japan. He found himself in a modern Japanese bathhouse with elderly men who were shocked to see him standing nude in front of them. Lucius was shocked by the unfamiliar environment. After overcoming the initial shock, he couldn't believe the remarkable advancements within the bathhouse. The baskets, faucets, and massage devices amazed him, and he couldn't help but lament his failure to conceive these innovations himself earlier. However, when he unintentionally ventured into the women's changing room, he was knocked out by a weight thrown by a furious, screaming elderly lady. Then we have a manga artist named Mami who becomes inspired by Lucius's appearance and decides to create a new character as she starts sketching his portrait. Later, Lucius awakens and is offered a bottle of flavored milk. Once again, he's surprised by the delightful, cold taste of it. In fact, it's so enjoyable that it briefly causes him to lose consciousness once more. Upon regaining consciousness, Lucius finds himself back in Rome, surrounded by people. They inform him that he had nearly drowned in the bathhouse and had just been rescued minutes ago. Initially, Lucius thinks that what he saw was only a dream. However, his doubt disappears when he spots the empty milk bottle beside him. 2 months later, Lucius presents his innovative renovation concept to the bathhouse owner, who greatly modernizes its facilities. His creativity receives widespread praise, and he earns a substantial income from his ideas. Later, an elderly man lies back in the tub, daydreaming about having a luxurious bathhouse at home. As he wonders how to make this dream a reality, he's once again swept away by a mysterious current, landing in another bathtub in the 21st century. A man enters and asks Lucius for assistance with his bath. Lucius, still confused, follows the instructions and discovers various modern conveniences like the shower head and shower cap. Coincidentally, the house belongs to Mami, who discovers Lucius on the floor. She rushes to get her sketchbook, but upon her return, Lucius has disappeared. Back in Rome, Lucius fulfills the old man's dream by crafting a bathtub, which earns him a substantial sum of money. With his newfound wealth, he hopes to provide his wife with better meals, but she remains dissatisfied. Her longing for a child and frustration with Lucius's constant work led to a heated argument, with her insulting him and eventually leaving. A few days later, a messenger from Emperor Hadrianus, known for his cruelty and rumored to have eliminated disagreeing cabinet members, approaches Lucius. The emperor recognizes the artistic work of Lucius's public bathhouse improvements. The emperor asks Lucius to create a personal bathhouse for him. He insists that it must be remarkable and completely uncommon. Lucius takes up the challenge with a determination to amaze the emperor. Throughout the night, he explores the town in search of inspiration for an extra luxurious bathhouse but comes up empty-handed. He feels embarrassed that all his ideas are mere imitations, undeserving of recognition. Unexpectedly, he falls into a pit and disappears. There, Mami is working at a store that sells bathroom supplies. Her career as a manga artist is facing difficulties, so she is taken on a side job. One day, she accidentally leaves the water running, excessively filling the bathtub. Suddenly, Lucius emerges from the tub, gasping for air. He ceases his frantic breathing when he notices the tub bubbling on its own. Lucius signals Mami for a tour of the store and offers a coin as payment, even though Mami doesn't understand his spoken language. However, she does appreciate the language of money, so she agrees and shows him around. Lucius becomes captivated by the urinals and printed toilet paper. But what truly amazes him is a bidet. When he sits on it, he feels like he's in paradise. Drawing inspiration from everything he observed, he returns to Rome and creates the most extraordinary bathhouse the emperor has ever seen. This bathhouse featured a toilet with a continuous water flow for effective cleansing, a tub with bubbles generated by slaves blowing through pipes, a luminous aquarium, and scented candles. He not only met but exceeded the emperor's expectations, earning him a special necklace adorned with a unique sculpture. Excited to share his achievement with his wife, Lucius returned home immediately only to discover his wife in an intimate affair with his best friend. Meanwhile, in the future, Mamie found herself returning to her modest hometown after repeatedly failing to generate ideas for a compelling manga and losing her side jobs. She found employment in a local bathhouse while immersing herself in the study of ancient Roman history driven by the coins she had received from Lucius and his subsequent disappearance. Her curiosity deepened as she began to wonder if he might be a person from the distant past. Back in Rome, Lucius, having lost the will to live following his wife's betrayal, had his life take an unexpected turn. A messenger approached him, expressing concern for the emperor. It turned out that the emperor had recently lost his son and believed a crocodile to be the reincarnation of the child. The emperor entrusted Lucius with the task of designing a place to house the crocodile, ensuring all its needs were met. Lucius accepted this task with utmost care, knowing that if the crocodile were to perish, he would bear the full weight of the blame. Lucius returns to the emperor's bathhouse to inspect the water flow as requested. However, when he steps into the tub, he is once again transported into the future, marking the third occurrence of this event. Upon emerging from this unexpected journey, he finds himself confined in a cage surrounded by crocodiles, realizing that he is in a crocodile sanctuary. Coincidentally, Mamie is also present at the sanctuary, accompanied by a date whom she doesn't fancy. Upon spotting Lucius inside the cage, she rescues him and offers him a tour of the sanctuary. Lucius becomes interested in learning how to care for crocodiles and create an ideal habitat for them, completely forgetting about Mamie's state. Mamie also introduces him to archery to prove that he truly comes from ancient Rome. To her surprise, Lucius exhibits remarkable skill, hitting all the targets with precision, confirming her suspicions. After some time, Lucius finds himself in a hot spring which serves as a portal, returning him to his own time. Several months later, the emperor successfully establishes a perfect sanctuary for breeding his crocodiles, and he has grown fond of Lucius, considering him part of the family and frequently inviting him to the palace. All seems well in the city until one fateful day when the emperor receives intelligence regarding rebels planning an attack on his troops. They harbor deep dissatisfaction with his reign and are determined to depose him by any means necessary. A long-lasting battle ensues between the emperor's forces and the rebels, spanning over a year. At this point, the emperor has aged considerably and is contemplating retirement. His plan is to pass the throne to his nephew Cneus for Cyanos. As the new emperor, an inaugural project that involves the construction of a grand bathhouse aimed at garnering popular support. The emperor demanded Lucius's assistance for his nephew and the project. This situation poses a dilemma for Lucius because his values and beliefs do not align with Cneus, who is known for his arrogance and pride. Lucius envisions that if Cneus were to ascend to the throne, it would certainly lead to the downfall of the Roman Empire. After careful consideration, Lucius makes the pivotal decision to approach Onius and decline the request to work for Cneus. Onius, in turn, reminds him that opposing the emperor's wishes amounts to treason, a capital offense. Desperate to find an alternative solution, Lucius approaches a fellow architect, imploring him to undertake the project in his stead. Unfortunately, the architect holds a deep-seated grudge against Lucius, blaming his own financial downfall on him. This confrontation escalates into a physical altercation, with Lucius being forcefully pushed against a wall. Then suddenly, he once again finds himself in the company of the old men's group. They escort him to a natural hot spring, offering him a place to recuperate. It's believed that bathing in the rejuvenating waters of the spring can expedite the healing process. Additionally, they provide him with potent fermented alcohol, its fiery sting burning his throat. In this state, Lucius meets Mamie again. She has basically learned the basics of the Latin language. She asks about his name, but Lucius, being drunk, clumsily tumbles atop her and the two accidentally plunge into the lake. Upon awakening, they find themselves in Rome, a revelation that shocks Mammy. She soon learns that Lucius is facing impending execution due to his refusal to comply with the emperor's directive. Distressed, she tries to convince him to undertake the project, but her efforts prove futile. Meanwhile, in Japan, the group of elderly men is searching for Mamie and, much like Lucius, they too fall and tumble into the lake. Similar to his experience, they appear in a swirling whirlpool and are transported to the past. Lucius, having traveled to a different city, stumbles upon a natural hot spring atop a hill, which reminds him of the elderly men's compassionate care. Realizing the therapeutic potential of the spring for the emperor's wounded soldiers, Lucius rushes to find Mammy and shares his idea with her, to which she readily agrees. Later on, Lucius approaches the emperor and presents his visionary proposal, attributing the inspiration to Antonius, a more promising successor to the throne than his former. Lucius hopes that this gesture will improve his standing in the emperor's eyes. After gaining permission to create the spring, Lucius, Mammy, and the group started on their mission. Within a few hours, they erected the first hut, and over time, numerous houses sprang up around the spring, transforming it into a haven for weary soldiers. The elderly group took on the role of caretakers for the wounded, facilitating their swift recovery and employing their knowledge of modern medicine. Several months later, the soldiers emerged victorious in their battle against the rebels. They commemorated their triumph with revelry, indulging in drinks, dances, and delectable food. Meanwhile, Mammy and Lucius found a quiet moment to engage in an intimate conversation, their feelings for each other having deepened during their shared efforts. At this moment, Lucius experienced a level of happiness previously unknown to him. Everything changed when the elderly group suddenly vanished and Mammy, too, began to fade before his eyes. However, before her disappearance, he managed to convey to her that there were various pathways leading back to Rome. Meanwhile, the emperor appointed Antonius as his advisor, and Lucius received public recognition for his valor in the battle. The citizens readily acknowledged that without him, their victory would have been uncertain. While Mammy starts a new life in the future. One day, while strolling through the city, she is suddenly delighted to see Lucius emerging from a pond. This is where the story ends as they reunite with each other.